Hello, everyone. Welcome to another exciting Beck Technology webinar. My name is Alex, and I am on the marketing team at Beck Technology. And today we're excited to bring you a conversation between Join co-founder Andrew Zukowski and our own customer success specialist, Doug Maiden. Now, before we get to today's webinar, I just want to lay down a couple of items that might be of interest to the folks that are attending this webinar. And that is that we have the Beck Technology Precon World 2022 coming up October 13th to the 14th in Dallas. And that will be at the House of Blues in Dallas. And I will be able to share that link with you all in the chat during today's webinar. Additionally, we want to make sure that all of your questions get answered. So please be sure to use the question box over to the right-hand side of the GoToWebinar platform. And if we are unable to get to your question today, rest assured that someone will be following up with you. So without further ado, we'd like to get the conversation started. I'd like to introduce our guest of honor today, Andrew Zukowski of Join and Doug Maiden.
Great, thank you, Alex.
There we go. Thanks, Alex.
Hey, Doug, good to see you.
Good to see you as well, Andrew.
I'm Andrew Zukowski. I'm one of the co-founders at Join. I'm its CEO. It's a pleasure to be on with folks from the Beck team. We've had a good partnership developing with Beck over the last couple of years, and we, I think, like many other folks, are looking forward to Precon World coming up here in October. So just by way of background, my background's in software engineering. I grew up in the 3D printing world, and then spent some time at a Google X spin-out that was working with design teams and architects and engineers. And we started Join about 5.5 years ago now, and have had a product out in the market and commercial use for about 3.5 years, 3.5-4 years at this point. And it's been a real pleasure coming to this industry, coming to understand some of the problems we're going to talk about today and some of the trends. We think it's a really exciting time to be working in the construction industry. We're really excited to have partners such as Beck and customers such as the ones that we do. It's we're all technologists. I'm here in Silicon Valley. It's in many ways exactly as bad as many attendees might think, but we've, as a company, attempted to take a very diligent stance of humility in approaching the industry, and hopefully that's reflected in some of the topics we're going to run through today. So yeah, glad to be here, Doug.
Great. Well, thank you. I think most everyone that I've ever come across knows my background. I started life off as an architect, got frustrated in the industry after 5 years in architecture because architects didn't know what things cost, and we were always over budget. And so I've been in technology now almost 25 years. And so it's really exciting for me to be able to chat with you today and get a little bit more information on TVD. All right, so Andrew, for those that might be unfamiliar with or hope to learn more about it, what is TVD?
Yeah, what a good question, Doug. So target value design, here, I'm just going to share my screen and run through a couple of slides here. Target value design, or target value delivery, the acronym TVD is used to refer to both, is a methodology and approach that grew out of the lean construction and integrated project delivery communities. And at its core, the idea is that you have the entire team that's working on a project, both the design side and the construction side, work together to deliver the best possible project for a client given a certain budget. And this is, it's a technique that grew up in the lean worlds and in the IPD worlds. And, the IPD's, sort of the bleeding edge of the industry in many ways. And 4 years ago, if you had told me that we'd be on a webinar talking about target value design because of the momentum that we're seeing around it in the market, I don't know that I would have believed you. But we're hearing TVD on the lips of many of our customers, and we're hearing that because many of their customers, because many large owners, even mid-size owners, have come to understand the value that a collaborative approach between the design side and the construction side can deliver for their projects. People have had sort of enough of traditional delivery methods that leave a handover cliff between design teams who, as you put it so well, don't really understand cost, and construction teams that are not the best equipped to make design decisions. And that leads to really frustrating value engineering processes that just leave a ton of value on the table for customers. And so TBD is this alternate approach. It's a collaborative approach. It emphasizes early engagement from folks who understand cost and schedule, and then working together as the design moves from a conceptual level to a detailed level that's actually constructible. And we're very excited to see this bubbling up in the industry. We think that the integrated approach that it embodies is really key to the future of the industry. We think it's a great fit for construction manager at risk, or CMGC, or more formalized design build project delivery methods. And we think it leads to better outcomes. We hear from our customers, for owners, for design teams, for construction teams, because you make better decisions along the way. There's much less that has to be revisited. And there's many fewer frustrating conversations with owners when they come to realize exactly what they're going to have to give up very late in the process based on a budget or a schedule overage. So yeah, that's TBD in a nutshell.
That's fantastic. So how does this contrast with other methodologies?
Yeah, so the really key thing here is that instead of having sort of project in a particular stakeholder's court, like the ball being just in one person's court, where early on in traditional delivery, like the design team is designing the entire project, right? And then construction documents are issued and it goes to a bidding process and then off to shop drawings and fabrication and installation and so forth. Like instead of that, the construction team gets involved early, and there's this iterative process of refining the design and the cost and the schedule based on feedback from a number of different expert stakeholders who bring to the table, design considerations or owner considerations or cost considerations or schedule considerations. And one of our customers likes to explain it that when they're working in an integrated fashion with their design partners, cost and schedule can inform design, where traditionally design sort of dictates cost, and then maybe there's a value engineering process that radically reshapes design. But for the most part, design dictates cost. And with target value design or target value delivery, cost and schedule can really inform design, and it can do it early enough that there's opportunities for easy and early course correction that are much less painful than if they had to happen later on in a project process. The this new world changes the roles of many people in here. I mean, TBD in particular really emphasizes communication and a collaborative approach to other stakeholders. Where a traditional project delivery might have a few major document issuances, sort of count them on one hand. Many teams that we observe sort of deploying a TBD process, instead of 3, 4, 5 major milestones, they have 10, 15, 20. They're not even named in traditional ways in terms of 50% design development or 100% design development. They're just every 2 weeks there's a new document issuance that's in process, and then a process of providing cost feedback and then understanding options and decisions that need to be made, and turning this iterative loop again and again and again. And that's there's a huge amount of opportunity that comes out of that, but in order to really thrive in an environment like that, teams really have to invest in communication and being set up to collaborate well with the other primary stakeholders, usually the owner and the design team. And you can't keep up with the sort of turning of that iterative wheel without really leaning into communication in a way that you didn't necessarily have to, like sort of in the traditional delivery. To draw the biggest contrast that we can, cost feedback sort of came in the form of what the bid was, and it was a single number delivered, and then maybe there was sort of more incremental stuff that happened after that, but it was much simpler, and there were many fewer questions asked of it, and it involved pricing many fewer options than might be explored in this iterative process, and it only had to be done once or at most a few times on a project, where now we're seeing teams really being pushed, particularly construction teams really being pushed to provide actionable cost information that's intelligible to their partners, that their partners can come to understand, and they're being pushed to do it on a weekly cadence, sometimes a daily cadence, and that's challenging to do. Leads to lots of good outcomes, happier clients, happier owners, better projects, happier teams, but just keeping up with the communication needs is a real challenge that emerges from from a TVD process.
I can imagine. So what are the new pressures that TVD puts on pre-con teams?
Yeah, that's a great question, Doug. So the we see it in terms of a few things. Like the one that we hear probably the most is just the need to provide very rapid cost feedback. And so some firms, historically referred to this as real-time estimating or continuous estimating, and this is a real challenge to do. The idea of going and doing a full estimate, taking a full document set and doing a full process of takeoffs and then repricing everything on a continuous basis or on a weekly basis or a weekly cadence is intimidating, to say the least. It's very difficult to turn around a full estimate in the timeline that's required for the rapid pace of a TVD process. And what this means is that teams are shifting to a much more incremental and trended approach, where occasionally there may be a document issuance where everything gets taken off and priced appropriately. But in between, for minor milestones, we're seeing more and more teams work at the change level, at the item level, where they'll look at a particular change that's been proposed at the maybe a quick design study that informs it in some way, understand the changes with it, look at the optionality. Oh, we got double glazed, single glazed, we got with sunshades, we got without sunshades for facade options. Here we got a pre-engineered stick-built system, like a custom unitized curtain wall system. These sorts of price out all of that, guide the owner to a decision that meets their needs both from the design, from the cost, and from the schedule perspective. And then fold that in to a cost model that's evolving sometimes day by day as these decisions are being made. And that's like one big shift. And so in order to keep up with the need to provide this cost feedback on a daily and a weekly cadence, teams are shifting from emphasizing only complete estimates made from major document issuances to really emphasizing the trend that's built on top of that. I think the other big challenge that we're seeing teams lean into is around communicating that cost information out and making it actionable to other teammates, where these contractual structures that tend to lead to TBD. So again, it's definitely IPD, but that's very rare. And so much more interesting, at least for us, and we think probably for a lot of this audience, is the growth of techniques such as TVD and design build or CM at risk or CMGC models. And in those models, it's not that everything about the estimate or the cost model is appropriate to share with every party, but everybody's life is better when the architect is empowered to walk in and say, I understand that we need to seek this much savings, and I've done the work to isolate changes over here, which will best preserve owner intent and deliver the best building for them while balancing like the cost needs and the budgetary needs and the schedule needs. Like it's everybody's best off in these models when other people can work with this information and bring more things to the table. But this can be a big challenge because different audiences understand projects differently. They understand cost differently, right? The master format that might be used in some work breakdown structures that sometimes to organize cost information is often opaque to designers. They might understand CSI 16 and like spec writers might understand it, but if they're handed a 10,000 line estimate and told that they're way over an electrical conduit, that there's just like too much electrical conduit like in the design, like they might look at this and say like, well, like what am I supposed to do with that? And it's hard for them to wrestle with that. They might be thinking more programmatically, they might be thinking spatially in terms of the building, they might be thinking in terms of what's the cost associated with the good, better, best finishes options that we've laid out for different areas in the building, and being able to present the well-developed cost information in a very simple way that meets different audiences where they are, because that's just the design team. Like the owner's got their own understanding of a project where they go, oh, we got these 3 budgets that we got to balance, and like, they've got their own view. But being able to meet them where they are and make it very simple and easy for them to engage with a cost that's changing every day as decisions are being made makes this information a lot easier for them to wrestle with. And it means that, TBD in some ways is like, we're big believers in it. Some people would say it's just a rebranding of what a process called value engineering should have been. And to some extent, I'll agree with that. I think if you look at all the academic definitions of value engineering, it's a very aspirational language. It's very much about collaboration and working towards the best possible outcomes given a fixed budget. But everyone in the industry has decades of scar tissue built up around value engineering because it tended to happen. Design was built up by, as you put it, design teams who didn't really understand cost, because that's not what they do. It's hard enough to design a building. It's hard enough to price a building. Like, nobody can hold all that in their head. They built up a design. It got sent, over the wall to a construction team who, like, did their best to deliver the project profitably, to deliver the project the owner wanted, and maybe to preserve design intent, but just didn't really have access to the right information. And so terrible things happened to these projects. Just the wrong stuff got changed. Operational costs got slashed in order to like make marginal improvement, or operational costs got like drastically increased to make like small improvements in like first construction costs. Just like awful things happened. And some teams, when they're engaging in target value design, have to really intentionally like overcome that scar tissue in history, where everybody's like walking in. Guy in our team, Jeff Sample, likes to put it, everyone walks into all these meetings like swords drawn, expecting to have to fight their way out, because they're so used to it being this like really antagonistic thing where they had to fight for everything that was important to them. And it's not to say that TBD is the construction equivalent of sitting around singing Kumbaya, but like, there's a lot more does make sense to work together on. Like, we have the contractual structures in place. We've got like, time to work together. We're engaged early enough, decisions are still possible. And so the communication and sharing of work like build a lot of trust, because then it's not just that like the design team is like sitting there thinking to themselves like, yeah, the contractor told me that they priced all this stuff and evaluated it, and that's why we're going to cut some design feature that I'm really excited about. Like, no, they're able to go in on their own. They're able to look at it, understand where it's coming from, and that builds trust. And with that trust comes confidence that you're making the right decisions. And when you have that confidence, the owner makes the decisions faster and they're more likely to stick. And that's better for everyone, because that means you've got early compression and you're ready to get going on site, instead of late compression because you didn't really get the drawings to the site until long after you should have. So yeah, those are sort of the 2 big pressures we see, is being able to trend and understand an evolving cost picture and communicate it effectively to build trust. Yeah.
Very nice. So how does tech support teams in executing TBD successfully?
Yeah, great question. So, I'm a tech vendor, so I definitely have an opinion here. Let me just pull up Join. I'm not gonna spend everyone's time on a demo. So this is Join, and I'm here in a demo project. So this is all fake data, and I'm just gonna call out 2 things. One is this trend line, and so this is just showing for this particular milestone how cost has evolved over time, and we can understand and we can zoom in on different decisions and what impacted them and where they came from. And if I double click into this, I get the whole history and all the backups and all the cost details and so forth. And this is important again because cost is now evaluating on a daily or a weekly basis as these projects move forward, and teams need to be able to understand where the project is as a whole, and they also need the communication ability, the ability to zoom into it in a lens that makes sense for them. So like we, this is a feature. It's just one feature that came out of requests from a number of different TBD teams where they wanted to be able to break out and trend costs, not just at the overall level, but actually broken down in different categories, because they often had working groups of a particular person who understood the installation or the trade contractor side, working with the engineer, for example, somewhere in the services, and there's a facade group that was working on the shell of the building. And so being able to track and trend and present and understand at a number of different levels comes up a lot in TBD. The other thing I'll just call out is just managing all of these different, everything that's in flight, all the different decisions that might be going on at any one time, being able to understand who's got ball in court, who's it assigned to, what the options are, what the potential range of cost impact is, where we need more information. Being able to share this in a real-time basis gets pre-construction teams out of spreadsheets. They've got, hopefully they're deploying really good solutions for building up cost information, but then in tracking the optionality and then folding in things like design consideration or sign off from the engineer into whether or not decisions get made, then ends up being a lot of work in spreadsheets and email. And the challenge there, especially when you're trying to keep up with the daily or weekly cadence of a true TBD process, you're just always playing catch up. You're always behind. Spreadsheets are getting emailed out, but they're the wrong version. They don't line up. Someone messes up a formula, and being able to track all the changes in one place just gives people a lot more confidence that that trend is what it needs to be. Yeah, and I would say, a lot of this leans on other excellent technology solutions. So estimation solutions, bid management solutions, bid leveling solutions, everything like that. So yeah, TBD, it's like this exciting thing. And I can't I can't overemphasize how surprised I am by how often we're hearing about it. We, when we started Join, we said, okay, we're gonna go spend a lot of time in the industry and we're gonna learn a lot about challenges teams are facing. And really early on, we decided to not spend as much time as we could have with integrated project delivery, so IPD teams, because we had observed previously that those teams do some very exciting things and they deliver. I mean, it's a lot of hospital jobs. I mean, they're the projects that hold up cities and hold up communities. They really matter, but those project teams often have resources to deploy that just 99.5% of projects never will have. They'll just never have the resources that these projects have. And so we looked at them and we said, no, we're not going to build for that. That's not meeting most of the industry where it is. And TBD was one of the things that they really emphasized. And we said, no, we don't, no. But, fast forward to really the second half of last year, we started to hear more and more from our customers hey, our owners are demanding this. Talking about TBD is how we're winning work. We're selling work by talking about these methodologies. We got to be able to implement, and that's why they were talking to us. And it really was cemented for me at the Advancing Pre-Construction Conference that I know Beck had, and I'm guessing many of the attendees were at Advancing Pre-Con as well. And they had an owner panel, and I was like, okay. So I went to the owner panel. I was like, what are the owners going to talk about? And they got asked about delivery methods, and to a T, every one of them. And there was someone representing healthcare on the panel, of course. I mean, it's a big, important construction vertical, but there were other methodologies as well. And they're just it's all about TBD. It's TBD, it's TBD, it's TBD. I was like, wow, this is nuts. This has come a long way. There's this audience of folks who specialize in senior care delivery or multifamily apartments, and their world has shifted to where their owners are going to be pushing them to adopt TBD. And it's a big change. We're really excited about it. And yeah, thanks for having me on to talk about it for a minute.
Future looks great. Alex, do we have some questions that Andrew could field?
Yeah, first of all, I just wanted to let everyone know that Join will be at Pre-Con World 2022. We're glad to have them on as a sponsor. So if there were any questions today that you have for Join and the team over there, please be sure to attend Pre-Con World. We do have a question that came in. How does the integration between Join and Estimator support TBD?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we got a integration out there with DESTINI Estimator. We have a number of teams around the country that are utilizing that every day. This makes it a lot easier to get those major milestone estimates in, where you're trending in between them, but there's still a lot of emphasis on getting that data mirrored inside of Join as crisply and cleanly. And it's a lot of work to build up something like that. It's based on all sorts of like very estimator and very estimation specific, logic and workflow. And the integration makes it much easier than developing that information inside of Join, which is not what Join is built for. It just makes it very smooth and easy to get that reflected in there, where it's not just overall cost, it's also work breakdown structure and the organization of the estimate and the backup for it. So yeah, we got a bunch of customers who lean heavily on that.
Awesome. And the next question is, if we want to learn more about Join, where can we go? Do you all have a website?
Yeah, we do have a website. It is join.build. I will just show my screen again. I know I'm popping on and off over and over, but join.build, we got a little bit about it. You get to our Success Hub. You can book a demo if you'd like to learn more. And then if anybody who attended this is interested in knowing more, my email is andrew@join.build. If you'd like to drop me a note, I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andrew. And that is going to be time for today. I really appreciate Andrew, really appreciate Doug, extremely passionate conversation around TVD and other topics today. Again, if you have not yet registered for Precon World 2022, I've shared that link over in the chat, and this recording will be available to those attendees and those who registered post this webinar. So thank you again, Andrew. Thank you, Doug, and thanks everyone for joining us today.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Alex.